Vladimir Putin has paid an unexpected visit to Russian-controlled regions of Ukraine. New video in from the Kremlin for you here that purports to show Putin arriving in Kherson. Kherson is one of the regions Russia claims to have annexed. Russian forces retreated from its capital last November, but they remain in control of part of the region. The Kremlin says Putin also visited the Luhansk region, which Russia also claims to have annexed. Let's bring in Chris Brown from our bureau in London. He continues to follow the war in Ukraine. What do we know about this visit to Kherson, Chris, to the region? What does it signal from Putin?
Well, Vladimir Putin doesn't leave his many bunkers around Russia very often, so when he does, it's always notable to see where he goes and what he says. So first question is, when did this happen? There's no date stamp on this. The Kremlin today seemed to suggest, or did suggest, that it was yesterday that he visited those regions. But if you listen to the tape, he's talking about, he says at one point, Easter is coming. Well, Easter's long gone, so that would suggest, in fact, that this visit perhaps happened days, if not weeks ago. Why is Vladimir Putin doing this now? Well, he's doing it perhaps to show confidence in Russia's battle plan and also to reinforce some of their ongoing Russian narratives about why this war is happening. A strange little moment in this video. He gives what appears to be a gold sort of religious case with some sort of a picture inside to one of these generals that he's meeting, and says that this once belonged to one of Russia's most successful defense ministers back when Russia was an empire. So this kind of feeds the idea, this ongoing narrative supported by Kremlin television, that this is some kind of a holy war, some kind of an effort by a greater Russia, a greater Russian empire to take on the West, to try to save Russian values, to save the destruction at the hands of the West. So a lot packed into that little moment, but it's still very significant. It's also useful to contrast these kind of visits with what you see from the other side, from Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. Of course, he was in Bakhmut not all that long ago. You know, he mingles freely with his troops, it appears anyway. He stops at a gas station, orders a hamburger, gives out medals, poses for selfies. This visit with Putin was nothing like that. You can see all the security around him the whole time. He, very short, just talks to a few generals, back in the helicopter and off again.
Chris, I was just looking at the calendar. If I'm counting correctly, this is day 419 of Russia's invasion. Still a lot of talk about spring counteroffensives. What do we know about what's next?
Well, I don't think the timing of this visit, whenever it happened, is random. Obviously, Russia is prepared for something. If you look at all the postings by Russian military bloggers, there is an unusually high note of concern about what might be in store for them. We've also seen lots of satellite photographs of what the Russians have been doing to prepare in these occupied areas, literally hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of freshly dug trenches, all kinds of anti-tank measures, and so forth. Also lots of new fortifications on the beaches around Crimea. So the Russians are getting ready. The Ukrainians, for their part, are saying something is coming. They're trying to keep the Russians off guard, not wanting to tip their hand as to where and when this might happen. But it does seem that there is still perhaps more in the way of Western weaponry, whether it's Leopard 2 tanks like the kind that Canada has provided, or other armaments that the Ukrainians are still waiting for. There's also the question of the sloppy, soupy ground that's going to get drier every day. So I think we're really just in almost a bit of a holding pattern, a wait-and-see pattern, even as this terrible battle in Bakhmut continues. Really, the emphasis, the view is shifting to these other areas, and when is it going to happen?
Chris, thank you. I appreciate that reporting this morning. Chris Brown is in London following what's going on in Kherson.